All right, folks, I just want to sidetrack for a little bit here and talk about test-driven development. So this is a slightly different approach to developing your software. It's focused on the code side of things, so actually writing your code. But the idea is it's an incremental process, so the usual idea of, you add a bit of code and test and add a bit of code and test, but the way it's focused is around the test case. So we come up with a test case and write code that satisfies that one individual case. Then we add one more test case and revise the code until it satisfies both. Then we add one more test case, revise the code until it satisfies all three, and etc., and etc., etc., until eventually you get all the functionality that you want. So you can take this as kind of a prototyping approach, if you like, where you're trying to implement either a component or a class or a subsystem or an entire system and just follow this approach and say, okay, well, we're just going to keep specifying one more test at a time, get that working, and proceed until we're done. So this is a little different than Agile in itself, in that we're not so much going ahead and using this as the basis for getting requirements, right? In Agile, we were going ahead and saying, well, we'll build something and then go back to the user and get feedback and go through the cycle that way. Here, we might very well have a full idea of what we're trying to create in the long run. We're just doing the implementation one test at a time. So we might know we might actually have in the back of our head what sequence we're going to add the tests in and what functionality we're ultimately going to aim for in the end. We're just developing by adding and testing one test at a time, getting one piece working at a time. So it is focused on sort of the code development, whereas Agile, if you like, is more a project methodology where we're trying to figure out what we're creating as we go. There is kind of one more extension on this, the idea of behavior-driven development, where instead of trying to specify kind of one test at a time, what we'll do is add one more aspect of behavior, one more behavioral component, if you like, at a time, and develop until we get that behavior working and correct. And then we'll add one more behavior and work on that until it's correct. So it's a slightly more high-level approach to a similar idea, where we want to go through and describe one more form of behavior. Usually with behavior-driven development, there's a notion that we've got some formal technique for describing our behaviors and for implementing our testing based on them. So one of the things that you might run across if you start digging into behavior-driven development a little bit is the idea of domain-specific languages. Languages that are geared, it's somewhere between a typical programming language and or typical high-level programming language and natural language, where we're trying to describe some aspect of the behavior for our particular application. So if you like, it's a little custom scripting language based around your program's behavior, your application's area, and its desired behavior. And so it's almost a customized programming language. And the notion is generally that you've got some kind of way to, from your domain-specific language, to directly implement testing that's going to support your project, your process, whatever it is you're creating. So we'll get into some of the idea of domain-specific languages and that kind of thing more in a programming language style, of course, like 330. But it is an interesting thought to have for the future. All right, I'll leave that one there.